everyone. Olivia Reiner here for Packers News in the visiting team's locker room at Lambeau Field, joined by Ryan Wood. Ryan, it feels like it's a Tuesday-ish?
I have no idea what day it is. It's just so weird. And I even wrote a note about it in today's paper. Like, they played 6 games. Only half of them have been on Sundays. And of the first 6 weeks, they have had a typical Sunday-to-Sunday traditional, this is the NFL game, 1 week. So you and I, we're totally lost in this.
I have no idea. So apparently,
we have no idea what
I've been
it is.
told that it's Wednesday?
I think it's Wednesday.
I think it's Wednesday. I tweeted out earlier that the game itself that was played the other day was on Sunday. It was actually on Monday. So there
and
you
we're
have
not
it.
faking this, by the way. Like I can't speak for Olivia. I believe that she's probably in the same boat. We're genuine. Like, we have no idea what day it is. Imagine your life on what day is this game. That's been us for 6 weeks.
Yeah, our lives revolve around whatever this team is doing. We show up.
Schedule.
We show up when we're told to show up, and we don't show up when we're not told to show up.
So it's Wednesday, but I have to really think long and hard about that.
Yes. So Wednesday, the Packers did a walkthrough today, so we were not invited to practice. We did not get to see any of practice. Not that practice has been very telling of anything as of late.
Attendance.
So we didn't get to see practice. However, a lot happened today, and let's just jump right into it. Before we even head into the injury report, which we will get to in just a moment, we might as well talk about the transactions that went down for the Packers today. So I'm going to read them off of my phone just so I don't forget anything, because I don't want that to happen. So most notably, the Packers signed wide receiver Ryan Grant, who most recently spent some time, first 2 games of the Oakland Raiders season. He was over there in Oakland, so that's pretty notable, and probably not a total coincidence that the Packers play the Raiders this upcoming Sunday. And they released running back Trey Carson in a bit of a surprise move. In addition to that, they also declared that Jay Sternberger would return eventually from IR. They also said that Ibrahim Campbell is going to start practicing again, the safety who's still on PUP technically. And then the Packers also added Tremon Smith, and I'm going to butcher this name, Demarie?
Yes.
We'll work on that. Crockett, running back to the practice squad. So they bring back Tremon Smith, who the Packers just cut from the active roster, who was the kick returner up until this past week. And, also they released tight end Ethan Wolf from the practice squad, who had just been signed to the practice squad last week. So
that's a lot. That's a flurry. It's officially a flurry here in October.
There's a lot to unpack. A lot to unpack right there. So I think right off the bat, Ryan Grant coming in, a veteran in this league, how much of an impact can he make right away?
Well, first of all, I'm glad I didn't cover the other Ryan Grant or the old Ryan Grant, or maybe just the running back Ryan Grant, because I'd be really confused if I did. It's weird to see that, right? And he actually said, he spoke with reporters today, he said that he's been confused for running back Ryan Grant. We'll go with that one. Running back Ryan Grant over and over again because, same name, and he said that people think they look alike. So it'll be less confusing for me than some on this beat. But, he's a slot receiver, and he's a guy that's played. He's made plays at this level, and I don't know, how quickly he's going to be able to acclimate mid-season into a new offense, but he did play in a very similar offense in Washington, obviously, and when he first came in 2014, and he was a 5th-round pick there. Had 570-some yards in his final season with Washington in 2017. Played for the Colts last year. Had 350 yards for the Colts. He's made plays. It's not like they went out and traded for A.J. Green. It's not a game changer, but he is a guy who's a veteran. He's a guy that can light up in that slot, and I think that's been a big hole for this offense.
So initially, when that announcement first came out that Ryan Grant was signed to the team, my initial reaction was that, okay, Davante Adams, probably not ready this week, probably not ready anytime soon. In addition to that, my next thought was Geronimo Allison might not be ready for this week. We don't know exactly. I'll pull up the injury report in just a second, and we'll go through that and talk a little bit more about that. But does that mean that Grant could have a role right away in this offense?
Does, yeah, for sure. And even regardless of injury, I think he's got a role because he can play in the slot. Like, he has proven track record performance in the slot in this league, and that makes him basically by himself on this receiver core. I mean, I know that Davante Adams has played in the slot, and wherever the heck you put Davante Adams, he's going to produce. So that's neither here nor there. But ideally, the Packers, I think, would like to, they'll move him around, but he's going to play a lot of perimeter too. And we're talking like a guy that can actually just play in the slot a large number of snaps. They don't have another guy like that. So regardless of injury, I think he's going to play.
So Ryan poses a question that I'd like to mull over.
There's a lot of Ryans here. You, me,
everyone's
Ryan
named
Grant.
Ryan.
We're all Ryan.
He wants to know, do you think Brian Gutekunst regrets trading Trevor Davis? At the time, I don't think he would have regretted it. Obviously, he made the decision when he made it for a reason. And if I were to put myself in his shoes at the time, I'd understand why he made the trade. Now, I'm sure he'd be happy to have another weapon at receiver. There's no question about it. But I don't know if regret is the right word. I would imagine that Gutekunst tries to live his life without regrets. And in the moment, I know that sounds like a very cliche thing to say, but I'd imagine right now, it's the situation at hand, and now he needs to find a way to build out that core in a different way.
It's not like Brian Gutekunst saw Trevor Davis take off for that long touchdown against the Colts and was like, oh, he can do that. I mean, he knew that he could do that. He also knows that he has an extensive injury history and that he was getting a 6th-round pick for a 5th-round receiver with all that injury history. And you want to talk about maximizing value, he did that. I mean, a 6th-round pick a few years later, and this is like, it's like any other investment that usually depreciates. That's how draft picks are. If you get a 6th-round pick a few years after a 5th-round pick, it's not bad value. So, if Trevor Davis goes on to never get hurt again, and buck his own personal history with his health, and can become that player, that speedster that he's always had the ability to be, then maybe down the road he'll regret that. I think it's too early, and I think he knows the track record and the value that he got.
So speaking of health, why don't we talk a little bit about the injury report today? Let's just go over some of the highlights. So Davante Adams did not participate, still has that turf toe injury. There's no indication of when he's going to come back. Matt LaFleur did not want to talk about his injury today, as he has not. The only time he was willing to talk about it was last week when he officially ruled Adams out for the game against the last game.
The Lions.
The Lions.
It was Monday.
My brain is all over the place. I knew as it was coming out of my mouth. Okay, so Geronimo Allison also did not participate with both the concussion/chest injury that he left the game early in. So again, that's could be part of the reason why they picked Ryan up.
It is, but I wrote this too. It's not just an injury replacement. I mean, it gives them the flexibility. Geronimo Allison has shown proven ability and production on the perimeter of the field. He's a tall, long leverage, big catch radius guy, and he sure has looked, if you compare the two, a lot more comfortable on the perimeter of the field, at least to me, than he has in the slot. It gives him the flexibility to move out Geronimo Allison to the perimeter and line him up there where he's been more comfortable in the past, been more productive in the past, more flexibility than they had without Ryan Grant. I think that's big.
For sure. Marquez Valdes-Scantling did not participate with an ankle/knee injury. He looked like he hurt himself in the game. He came back.
I talked with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Not surprising that. What was he? He was out or limited?
He was out entirely.
He was out entirely. Not surprising. I'm sure they're going to be careful with him. He did return. He was really scared at first that was a serious injury. If you looked at it, it could have been. I mean, he folded like a lawn chair. I mean, it was not what you want. But it was pretty amazing he was able to come back. So, he's warm during the game. He's loose. The next day, the body stiffens up. How is he feeling? Not surprising he's out, but we'll see, if he can play Sunday. I would think that he probably does.
I did not mention this at the start of our show, but the Packers did. Oh, I did mention this. They didn't practice today. It's Wednesday,
right?
So, again, just to reiterate, they didn't practice today. These are estimations. It was a walkthrough. Yes. So, had they practiced, this would have been the injury statuses and the participation statuses. So, let's see. Darnell Savage, again, ankle injury, did not participate. Continuation from last week and his status. Jimmy Graham, with an ankle injury, did not participate. I mean, gosh, Jimmy Graham has been a regular on this injury report, and it's been a tough.
What's he listed as? Because last week was veterans rest.
It's an ankle this time.
The ankle this
time. So it's different.
Yeah.
So he's been all over the place. I think he had a groin injury at some point.
Yes.
So it's I can't imagine. It's hard to play through injuries, and not everybody can do it. Perhaps he's been playing through a lot of injuries. I'm not here to make excuses for Jimmy Graham, but this has not been a memorable season.
The ankle does not affect the hands in the end zone, so no, that's not an excuse at all. So I think we projected last week that probably Devontae Adams and Darnell Savage Jr. probably wouldn't play this week. I think we're sticking to that, right?
Well, at this rate, it's certainly not looking good. So that's that. And then some positive, Aaron Rodgers limited with the knee yet again. Positives, Tony Brown would have returned to practice after suffering, I believe, a hamstring injury. He's been out for at least a game or two. It's been 2 games now. So he would have been limited today. Robert Tonyan also missed the last game. He would have been limited in practice. He has a hip injury. So those are just a couple highlights. You can go check out our socials for that. But I want to go, if you want to see the full thing, but I would like to see what our comments are saying right now. So Josh asks a question that I'm sure a lot of you have, but so the Packers added a receiver. Great. Josh wants to know, why not trade for a big-time receiver? Do the Packers have now what they need? Is Ryan Smith the solution to everything, or do they need to go out and continue to work and see what else is out there?
Brian Gutekunst has given the same stock answer since he became GM almost 2 years ago, January of 18. Matt LaFleur repeated that stock answer today when he was asked the same question. The stock answer is this: if a deal to improve this roster presents itself, they will not hesitate to make it. Now, it sounds really boring, right? But it's also true. I mean, why haven't they traded for a bigger receiver? Because it hasn't presented itself. It's not like they don't want to be better, or if they're being honest, don't think they can get better at receiver. It's just that you need a deal to be able to make a deal. And so we'll see. I mean, it seems really easy to say, hey, go to the Bengals and say, here's a third-round pick for A.J. Green. Well, there's a lot more that goes into it than that, including how much does A.J. Green have left with his injury history, his age. He's not 27 anymore. What kind of value do you place on a third-round pick, hypothetically? And then the most important, are the Bengals willing to do that? So it always takes 2 to dance, obviously. But that really, I think they improved their roster with Ryan Grant. I think they did that. If they have another opportunity to improve their roster, they'll do that. It's just about opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a question here from Paul. He wants to know, Grant, now that the Packers have Grant, how does his presence may have any sort of implication for Alan Lazard and the number of reps that he's going to have? Yeah. We'll find out, but Aaron Rodgers continues to advocate for Alan Lazard. Matt LaFleur, when asked about it, said that he was asked, do you wish that you had given Lazard reps, more opportunities earlier in the season? And he said, well, hindsight is obviously 20/20, but he has something special, but he needs to be able to be consistent and to do it again. Anybody can do it once. So, yes. So how do you see Alan Lazard's playing time shaping up heading into this week?
I think he's going to play. They're going to give him the opportunity. Alan Lazard's a perimeter receiver, so and they all rotate. It's not like 100% of your snaps come from the slot or the perimeter, the X, Y, or the Z. I mean, you play all of them, but he's more perimeter than he is slot. So he's going to get a chance to play. He's going to play this week. They're going to see if he can back it up, if he can double on it, and grow and build on it. And we'll see if he can. We don't know, but that's the key for him. But they're going to give him that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I know this is a thing. Like if you are in the NFL, if you are at this level of football, you better be confident. Like I get that. But his level of confidence in himself and to have said, like, oh, I knew I was capable of this, that is a level of confidence that I would like to aspire toward.
Imagine the whole, like, you've never done anything in the league before, and you're in the fourth quarter on Monday Night Football, and you go to Aaron Rodgers, of all people, and say, hey, I'm going to run this route, give me the ball. Yeah, that's pretty confident. Like, that's really out there.
It's insane. Like yeah. I commend him on that, and I'm happy it worked out.
And oh, by the way, it did work out. He caught the ball for a first down, so there's that too.
Good for him that it worked out. Had it not worked out, whatever, it didn't though. It worked out. That I will say it again. we all need to have that sort of confidence in ourselves.
Have Alan Lazard's level of confidence in whatever you do.
That's what I aspire to, seriously. Yeah. A couple more here, guys. Let's see. We've got a question, a bigger angle from Mike here. What's the NFL going to do about all of the calls made by the refs that may or may not be super accurate? It gets worse every week. What can the NFL do about it? What sort of intervention can happen? I
don't know. I mean, so funny story today. I walk up to Preston Smith in the locker room, and I told him, first thing I said was, hey, I want to ask you something. That was, follow up from what we were talking about last week. And the first thing he says, you want to ask me about the officiating? Now, that's the first thing he said, and he didn't want to be asked about the officiating. But, I mean, it's on these guys' minds, and how can it not be? The officiating is, and he didn't say it, this is me saying this, the officiating is broken in this league. It is atrocious. It is awful. It has affected the Packers good and bad. It has affected every team good and bad. It is a problem for every single team in this league that refs just cannot get their stuff together. And how long is that going to take? I don't know, but it's maddening to watch. The product is poor. The Packers won in large help with bad calls against the Lions. They lost on a bad call. It was a defensive pass interference at the goal line against the Eagles. It's not a whatever you want. I mean, you obviously want your team to do well. As Packers fans want Packers to win. It's so much beyond that, though. It's just the product of the game is just so poor right now. Yeah. It's so poor.
No, it's tough. And as you were getting at, yes, there were a lot of calls that went against the Lions that worked in the Packers' favor. However, that does not negate the fact that the Lions did not play perfectly all the time. And there can be both things can be true, right? Like they both the Lions can have screw-ups and the refs can get things wrong.
Well, I'll go back to 4th and 4 early in the second quarter when the Lions are up 10-0 and they have the ball on the 4-yard line and they have the choice to kick a field goal or go for the touchdown. To go a 13-point lead, 13-0, 2-possession, or 17-0, 3-possession lead. And at that point, everything had gone wrong for the Packers defense. That game through the first 20 minutes was as bad, worst-case scenario as it could have been. What do you do in that scenario? I get the safe call is to take the points. That's not keeping your foot down on the pedal. And obviously what they did was they took the points and they stayed within 2 possessions. But even if you go for it, you don't get it, the Packers are backed up having nothing going right for them on their 4-yard line. And that's not an advantageous place to be. If you get the touchdown, you're up 3 possessions, then you have some tangible reward for your hot start. I mean, that to me, I still think it was a huge blunder by Matt Patricia. It was opening the door for the Packers to get back in the game, and the Packers, to their benefit, to their credit, did that. They got back into the game. You're asking for a collapse at that point. In that situation, you've got to keep your foot on the gas pedal, and he didn't do that.
Sure. You can pick a bunch of different moments and whatever, but the fact is, it's not all just one thing. I think in the hot takes world, everyone wants to be like, oh, the Packers won just because of the officiating. No. I don't believe that. I think it's bigger than that.
The Lions were robbed of a chance to win.
Sure.
Because it was not a penalty. Troy Vincent was right. It was not a penalty on Trey Flowers, the second one. First one I thought was closer. I probably still wouldn't have called it a penalty. I don't have much of an issue with them calling it a penalty. The second one was not a penalty. It robbed their chance to win, but it did not rob them of the win. There was a lot of things the Lions did, and oh, by the way, the Lions had 1 touchdown all night. They weren't.
Which Lucas points out may or may not have been a touchdown. I also am not entirely convinced it was a touchdown.
I thought it was from the overhead, but I'll be very honest with you, I didn't get a good look at it. So
the overhead wasn't very clear either.
I thought it was, but here's the point. The Packers defense had really gotten its feet underneath them after that bad start. There's no guarantee that Matthew Stafford's leading them down in that situation against the way that the Packers defense was playing. Would they have liked the chance? Yeah, absolutely. And did they deserve the chance for that? Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't mean they would have capitalized on the chance.
All right. I hate to use this term, but I think we have beaten the dead horse enough. everyone has. I think we're all sick of talking about it. We're all sick of
you
hearing
opened a can of worms, Olivia.
I can tell I set you off,
Jeez.
Ryan.
The officiating is just so bad.
But yes,
it's so bad.
yes. There's nothing we can do about it. So we just have to watch it, and we'll keep you posted on how things pan out, and who knows what goes on next, but it's certainly interesting to follow. Guys, big takeaways today. New wide receiver. Tomorrow in practice, we're going to see definitely Ibrahim Campbell come back.
Yep, he's
practicing. He'll be practicing. Jay Sternberger should be back and practicing as well, so some new faces to look out for in practice tomorrow. We'll see how they do.
One point on Jay Sternberger. So he's in Tom Silverstein, our colleague, was the one that tweeted this. He only has 13 days of practice since the beginning of camp. It's very unlikely he's going to be a significant contributor this season on the field. Why do you use one of the 2 return designations? Really 2 reasons. One, who else are they going to return? I mean, they don't have a lot of options when it comes to that. You got 2, you might as well use it. But where it's really beneficial for Jay Sternberger is that he needs to practice. He needs to develop, and you develop and practice. And if you're on IR, you can't practice. So this is an opportunity for him to practice something that he hasn't done but 13 days really since the start of camp. That's why I think it's not like Jay Sternberger's coming back and Jimmy Graham's job is in jeopardy. It's Jay Sternberger's going to come back and get practice reps, which he dearly needs.
And another big takeaway, by releasing Trey Carson, the Packers have shown that they're really investing in Dexter Williams. And I know we have not been the highest on Dexter Williams on this live stream in weeks past, rightfully so. I mean, they brought up Trey Carson off the practice squad to the active roster against the Cowboys and had him start in place of Dexter Williams, what we all thought was going to happen. So it's showing that Williams is, at least, they want to continue to develop him, and they want to put their focus and energy in him.
Trey Carson and Dexter Williams are on totally different, separate tracks as far as their tenure and their time with the Packers. Trey Carson's the guy who's more dependable right now. He's played more football at this level. He's a better pass blocker. He's more reliable when it comes to being assignment sure. So if you need to get a week or 2, he's the guy. The Packers drafted Dexter Williams in the 6th round because they believe in his talent. They still believe in his talent. The fact that they needed to be a little patient with a 6th-round pick does not mean that they don't believe in his long-term talent. So, I mean, Trey Carson has been kind of the patchwork, get through a week or 2. Dexter Williams is a guy that they're willing to be patient with because long-term they believe that his dynamic running style, his one-cut slashing ability, is something that can really translate to this offense with Matt LaFleur's outside zone scheme, and they're willing to allow that to take time for him to develop to get to this level.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back live tomorrow after practice to give you any more updates. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about tomorrow as well. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media channels. You're probably watching us right now on one of them, so you're already there. Why not just hit the follow button? It's not really that easy. Do it, people. Also, make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all of your Packers coverage. We've got great stuff up on the website right now. We'll have some stuff up later tonight as well. All right, that's it for us. Ryan, anything else?
Nope. I'm just going to go try to figure out what day it is.
All right, we're going to go look at a calendar.